All right, today we are going to start section 5.1. Tomorrow we are going to finish it up. Not gonna lie, today is gonna seem kind of weird because we're gonna talk about domain and range again a little bit, but we did that at the beginning of the year, but we're gonna talk about them in a different way, like in interval notation. So first thing we're gonna chat about are absolute value functions. We graphed absolute value functions yesterday. And just as a quick reminder as to what those look like, these are what absolute value functions look like. This is the one that you would have done in Go Formative. So they do look like V's, or so they look like a V, or they look like an upside down V. So it kind of just depends on what value or what number is out in front of the absolute value bars. If there's a positive number or nothing really written out in front of the bars, it looks like this. If there's a negative sign or a negative number out in front of the bars, it looks like this. So that's kind of your way to like check yourself a little bit. So a couple of key features of your absolute value functions that you are going to have to do today. So basically today you're still going to be filling in a table. And then I'm going to recommend that you sketch these. So you're part of your answers today. You are gonna have to fill in the table. I'm gonna recommend that you sketch them because once you have it sketched, then when we go to write out these key features, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier. So first key feature is going to be the vertex of your graph. The vertex is the highest or lowest point on your graph, and it's a point, so it's going to be an XY coordinate. So like it's either going to be this point or it's going to be that point. So there's always going to be a point. It's kind of like when it switches, it's going down, then it goes up. So where does it switch? Right there. It goes up, then it goes down. So where does it switch? Right there. So that's called your vertex. The axis of symmetry. So as you can see, when we graphed these, let me show you, the other day, when we graphed these, they were symmetric, meaning that if I could fold this side onto this side, and where I would put the fold would be, in this case, the y-axis. So if I folded along the y-axis, this side would land over here. So that's what the axis of symmetry is. It's the line that you, I'm gonna use my own words here, that you could fold over. So all of our lines though, like that one right there was the y-axis. The y-axis is actually the equation x equals 0. So today, if you are folding over the y-axis, you are going to have to put x equals 0. So I want to get you used to that because in the upcoming sections, we are going to be folding over not just the y-axis. So today, hardest part is just going to be figuring out domain, range, and vertex axis of symmetry. Plugging in to Desmos is how you are going to find the values for your f of x here. So this is just a normal absolute value function. This is called your parent function. There's nothing being added or subtracted, inside, outside, out in front. This is called your parent function. You're gonna hear me talk a lot about parent functions when we get to transformations next week. So if I were to Desmos plug -2 in, I would get a 2. If I were to plug a -1 in, I would get a 1. If I would plug a 0 in, I would get a 0. If I would plug a 1 in, I'd get a 1. And if I would plug a 2 in, I'd get a 2. So first part of today that you're going to do is you're going to fill in these tables. And again, you're going to want to go to Desmos to do that. Plug them in. And remember, they have in that little keyboard that those little absolute value bars, I think there's like an A in it. So that's what you're going to use to plug these in. Once you've plugged these in, then I do want you to sketch it. So I have a nice graph here. If you don't have a graph, that's totally fine. Just make yourself a little one and plot these points. Without seeing what these graphs look like, it's going to be almost impossible for you to do this portion. You need to see your graph in order to be able to understand domain and range. So I go -2, 2, negative 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. So then I connect my dots. And there's my graph, which is great. So now a couple of things that we're going to point out here. So first thing, the things that we're going to list are the characteristics. We're going to figure out the vertex. What's the axis symmetry? We're going to figure out what's the domain. And then what is the range? Whoops, range. So the vertex is going to be the point or the very lowest or very highest point. In this case, we have a very lowest point right here. This point is at 0, 0. So our vertex is 0, 0. Axis of symmetry is the line that our graph could fold over and land back on itself. And this is the line right here, which is the y-axis. The y-axis, remember, we're writing the y-axis as x equals 0. That's the y-axis. You have to write it that way. You can't write y-axis. The domain. So what are the x values that work here? So the domain for all of these graphs, and I'm not even going to get really that much into why this is, but the domain for all of these is going to be all real numbers. So the domain is going to say, if you say all real numbers, that means it can go all the way from the left to all the way on the right forever and ever and ever. All the way on the left is going to be negative infinity. And you're always going to put a curved bracket there. And all the way to the right, because this graph will keep going to the right, to the right. It goes up, but it also goes to the right. Domain is left and right. So this line will continue to go right forever and ever and ever, and that would be positive infinity. So when you write infinities and negative infinities, you always put these curved brackets. So this graph will go as far to the left as I ever could go and far to the right as I ever could go. Range, how far down, then how far up. So my graph goes down to here, and the range is always going to be y values. So how far down for the y values? It hits at 0. Now I'm including the 0. The 0 is an actual number, so you put these types of brackets. How far up does it go? We don't know because the line is going to continue to go up. Notice that. Subtracting this one right here. So again, first thing that you would do is you would plug Desmos. Take the -2, plug it in, and then take the -1, plug it in, so on and so forth. I'm going to shortcut this because I can do these in my head, but again, if on your assignment, you're going to have to fill in these boxes using Desmos. So when you plug in a -2, you get a 4. When you plug in a -1, you get a 3. When you plug in a 0, you get a 2. When you plug in a 1, you should get a 3. And when you plug in a 2, you get a 4. So there's my table. Now you're going to want to sketch a graph. So -2, 4, -1, 3, 0, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4. So here's my graph. And now I'm going to do all those characteristics again. So I'm going to do vertex, axis of symmetry. I'm going to do domain. Domain's going to always be the same for all of these. And then range. I just want to get you used to writing the domain that way. So the vertex is, again, the point where your line like switches, like it goes down then up, and it switches right here. This coordinate is 0, 2. So that's my vertex. Axis of symmetry, again, in this case, is going to be the y-axis, which is x equals 0. Can't stress that enough, guys. Make sure you write x equals 0. Domain, how far left does it go? And then how far right? We don't know because it goes on and on forever in both directions. So we do negative infinity, positive infinity. That will remain the same for all of these. Now the range, how far down does it go? Then how far up does it go? So the lowest it goes is here, and that is at 2. So you do the closed bracket at 2. How far up does it go? We don't know because of the arrows. So positive infinity. We'll do one more. Just that way I feel better leaving you with this. Let's take a look at number 6 here. So again, plug these in to Desmos. When you plug in the -2, you get a 2. When you plug in the -1, you get a 3. When you plug in the 0, you get a 4. When you plug in the 1, you get a 3. And when you plug in the 2, you get a 2. So again, take these values, plug it in here. In Desmos, you would type in 4 minus absolute value, -2, close the bars. So let's plot this real quick. -2, 2. -1, 3. Ooh, this one's going up. 0, 4. 1, 3. And then 2, 2. So this graph looks a little bit different, so I'm kind of glad that I did this one. So again, I'm going to do all 4 of these things today. What is the vertex? What is the axis of symmetry? What is the domain? And again, the domain is the one that never ever changes. You don't really need to think about that too much right now. And then the range is one you have to be careful on. So vertex, this one has a very highest point because it goes up then down, and where it switches is right here, and this point is 0, 4. Axis of symmetry, again, is going to be the y-axis, which is x equals 0. Domain, how far left, how far right, we don't know because the graph's going to continue to go down, which also continues to go to the left, and then it's going to continue to go to the right. So domain is always going to be negative infinity to positive infinity. Now the range, you always have to go from lowest to highest. Lowest to highest. So the lowest that our graph goes, we don't know. So you have to do, so we're going to do negative infinity because our line is, it's down far, it's like it keeps going down. Lowest to highest. So now how high does our graph go? It goes up to 4. And you have to put the bracket there. Notice the difference here. This one's pointing up. And again, we went lowest to highest. The lowest our graph goes is 2. Highest our graph goes is we don't know. This one, lowest to highest. Lowest our graph goes, we don't know because, so negative infinity. Highest our graph goes is up to 4. Today, you're going to have to fill in these tables. And then you're also going to have to come up with all of these for your graphs. Please make sure you are reaching out if you have struggles on these. Pause, rewind. It's the best part about these. We've now done 3 examples. And then tomorrow we do have some story problems that go along with these. So don't hesitate to reach out.